Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. We'll be doing a breeding guide on Apistogramma Panduro. Now these are one of the easier apistas to breed. They're really beautiful, they look super cool. They're a little bit more aggressive as well in my experience than some of the other shyer species. But they are super fun and a super cool fish to breed. So let's get right into the tank setup. So this here is one of my breeding tanks for the Apistogramma Panduros. So what I like doing with the breeding tank is having a lot of wood and plants in the tank. And I also add a lot of catappa leaves or other, oak leaves, those kind of leaves. Any of those botanicals will work well. This really helps kind of stain the water. And in my opinion, a lot of the apistos look better when the water is a little tannin stained. I find that the colors show a little better. They also prefer it just because it's a little safer for them. And they, in my experience, they like the lower lighting. So I like doing that, having a lot of plants. Essentially just cover. That's the main thing we need to focus on with these apistos. And then I also like having 2 caves in the tank. Now a 20-gallon long is perfect to breed these fish if you have a group. If you're just doing a pair, even a 5 or 10-gallon will probably be okay. I would stick to 10-gallon or larger just because it's a little bit more difficult to maintain pH and all these other factors in tanks that are smaller. But I would try to stick to a 10-gallon. If you have a 10-gallon, I would stick to maybe 1 or 2 caves in the tank in a more secluded area where the female and male can guard the space more easily. So this is really important because if they're not, the cave is like in the middle of an open area where a lot of other fish have access to it, they might eat their eggs or fry before they kind of hatch and swim around. So in terms of the breeding group I would start with 6 fish. That's generally what I do. You can start with a pair. I've found that Panduros tend to pair off a little more strongly than some of my other apistos. I've had trouble breeding two random fish that I put together. I have had a lot more success when I've allowed the fish in a big group and had them pair off individually and then spawn those pairs. So that has been a lot more successful for me. I don't know if that's just my personal experience and if that's just with this species of apisto. I have mixed up pairs with other apistos very well and it's worked much better than for Panduro specifically. But yeah, I would get a group, let them pair off, and then pull the individual pair and put them into a tank. So the tank I have these in with the video that you guys are seeing, this is kind of what I did to pick out a pair initially. Now these are some that I imported a few months ago from Peru. They are wild fish. They've been doing really well in my water, so I've kind of grown them out, and these are just some of the ones I kept behind to breed. So as you guys can see here, they're kind of all swimming around. I have, I think, 3 or 4 females in this tank and 2 males. So that's the kind of the ratio I like sticking to. If you can try to pick males and females. When they're a little smaller, it's harder to tell the sex of these fish. But when they do get larger, it's a lot easier to tell, especially for the Panduros, because there is such a stark difference between the males and the females. So in terms of water parameters, I like keeping the pH and the TDS much lower. I have heard success with higher pH and TDS. Me personally have not had great luck with a lot of the apistos when the TDS and pH are too high. I have used almost I think I used 70-80% RO water for this specific tank setup. Had really good luck with hatch rates and all that stuff. If your TDS is higher, the males can't fertilize the eggs properly. Like discus have the same issue, apistos have this issue. A lot of dwarf cichlids and South American fish in general have this issue. So I personally like using RO water. Now it's not a requirement. There are ways to kind of soften the water. You can add a bunch of catappa leaves that absorbs the calcium. So there's things you can do, but I would try your best to use RO water. I like keeping this tank under 100 ppm TDS. Now, Panduros are not as difficult to breed as some of the other species like Elizabethae or Abacaxis or even the Agazii variants. So you might be able to do fine with TDS around 150 to 200, something like that. That might work fine for you as well. But me personally, I've had the best experiences with breeding apistos in terms of sex ratio and hatch rates, success rate with the fry when the TDS is lower than 100. So I generally like sticking around 90. That's kind of the safe zone where I find it. Now pH I think is a little more variable. I have not had too many problems with pH, especially for Panduros. With some of the other species it's a little different, but for Panduros I've had the pH a little above 7. Now when your TDS is so low, the pH does tend to drop. So the pH in this tank I think was probably like low 6s. So if you can keep it between 6 and 7 or even a little under 6, they'll do fine in that kind of setup. I think the more important thing is just keeping the water parameters stable. Don't mess around with it too much and you'll have good success rate with keeping these alive. Now, in terms of the eggs, so you can kind of see here, this is a little bit after I pulled some of the other fish out of this tank, but there's a female that's kind of defending the cave and is looking a little skinnier and has brighter colors and is kind of chasing all the other fish away. This is real behavior that shows that there's eggs in that cave. So this is pretty obvious, I would say. Specifically for these Panduros, the female turns like electric yellow, or not electric yellow, but pretty bright yellow, and the black spots get a lot darker. She becomes very aggressive. So this is the kind of sign that they've spawned. And then I think in about 3 days, now I keep this tank around 80 degrees, 78 to 80, so for me it takes around 3 days for the eggs to hatch, and that's the temperature I recommend keeping them at. So after 3 days, you'll see the eggs will usually hatch. Now I like leaving the eggs in there for about 3 days, and I pull the eggs out. For me, I'm trying to breed a lot of Apistos, and for this specific breeding project, I pulled the eggs out. Now I have left fry with the parents in the past, but just for this video, I'll just show you guys how to pull the eggs out and hatch them like that. So here I've kind of pulled the eggs out and I've dumped them into a breeder box. Now I hang this breeder box on the side of the same tank that the fish came out of. This kind of prevents the shock of transferring tanks. I also like filling the breeder box with water before you kind of shake out the cave and let the fry out. I've found that Apisto fry are very, very delicate, so you can easily damage them if you're kind of pouring them out too quickly. You can kind of bend their spine and all that. So I like filling the breeder box with water before you kind of let the fry out. This makes the entire process for the fry a lot safer and easier. Now, the fry are really easy to take care of. I found them a lot easier than rams, a lot easier than like tetras or even rainbows or anything like that. They take baby brine shrimp right away, so freshly hatched baby brine shrimp. So you can see here the fry are kind of just wiggling at the bottom. So they usually stay like this for about 2 to 3 days, I would say, and that's when they start free swimming. When they start free swimming is when you need to feed the fry the baby brine shrimp. So that's what I like doing. Wait kind of 3 days. I don't even mess with any of the powdered foods. I have tried it. I don't really think it's necessary for most Apistos. So I stick to freshly hatched baby brine shrimp. Brine shrimp super easy to hatch. I think if you breed fish, you really just need to get into the habit of hatching brine shrimp every day. It makes everything so much easier to feed, and it helps the parents and all that kind of stuff. So I would just do the baby brine shrimp. Now I usually pull mine in 24 hours. My room is kept around 80 degrees, so it does hatch a little faster. If you have it in room temperature, it might hatch a little slower. So just feed these the baby brine shrimp. I do it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. I really find there's no way around this. I haven't found a way to feed the fish only once a day. I just don't think it works. They need to be fed twice, specifically for the babies. More if you can do it. I haven't personally found the need to feed them baby brine shrimp more than twice a day. So they grow pretty quickly at this point. So I don't have like specific video of the ages and all that. I was away on a trip in Spain for a couple weeks, so I wasn't able to kind of get video of them at like a month old. But here they are kind of at, I think, around 2 months old. So these ones, I don't know if they grow fast. They might have grown faster if I had them in a separate tank with less competitive fish and a little bit more water changes. But this is kind of the average growth rate you can expect from the Apistos. They're just starting to kind of show their coloration. They're just starting to kind of sex out. So this is how they look now. Now, I think these are really easy fish to breed. They're a lot easier on the scale of Apistos. I would say Cockatoides are a little bit easier than Panduros, but they're probably the second easiest Apisto in my experience to breed. The parents are pretty good at taking care of the fry. Now, these might be because I have wild fish. Maybe transferred fish are a little bit harder to raise. I don't know. But these have done really well for me. They eat pretty much everything. They are more aggressive. I would watch out for that. Panduros are aggressive compared to other fish. I have Erythroras and Elizabeth Day and Abacaxis and a couple other variants, and those are a lot more timid. Even my Hongswell are much timider. So these are a little bit more of the aggressive side. But overall, really, really good fish. Pretty easy to breed. I would say any of you should try it. Not hard at all. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Hope this helps you guys a lot. And leave any comments or questions. I might have missed things in this video. So if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.